Item 1, Notice of Motion, Impartial Speaker of Parliament, a motion standing in name of Mr. Leong Mun Wai.
Order. I wish to draw members' attention to the standing orders before the motion is proceeded with. The subject matter of the motion is on the general desirability for an independent and impartial speaker and for Parliament to be a fair arena. This motion is not a debate on the conduct of former Speaker Tan Chuan Jin. Members are hence reminded that they should confine their observations to the subject of the motion to be discussed. In their speeches, members should not impute improper motives to any other member, and more specifically, rulings made by the former Speaker on any point of order cannot be reviewed by Parliament, except upon a substantive motion directly addressing those specific points of order. Any aspersion on the conduct of the former Speaker or allegation that he was thereby not independent and impartial will hence be out of order. Members are to abide by these standing orders, and I will disallow any remarks which infringe the rules. Mr. Leong Mun Wai.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that this House reaffirms its commitment for the need for the Speaker of Parliament to be independent and impartial, and for Parliament to be a fair arena for all. Before I begin my speech, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Progress Singapore Party, PSP, I would like to congratulate you on your election as Speaker of Parliament. We are sure that your years of experience as Deputy Speaker will put you in good stead for the role that has now been entrusted to you, and we trust that you will do your best to restore public confidence in the office of the Speaker of Parliament. The events that have led us to debate this motion today has been truly regrettable. Even though Speaker Tan Chuan Jin has resigned and apologized for his comments for Associate Professor James Lim's speech on the President's address during the parliamentary sitting on 17 April 2023. The PSP believes that the conduct of the former Speaker has brought Parliament into disrepute and is a matter that deserves a full debate in this House. Sir, the Speaker of Parliament is responsible for presiding over parliamentary sittings and enforcing the rules of debate that have been laid down in the standing orders of Parliament to ensure that parliamentary business is conducted in an orderly manner. In carrying out these important duties, the Speaker must remain impartial to all MPs, regardless of their political affiliations. He must be seen as a fair referee, just like a judge. Mr. E.W. Barker, the first Law Minister of Independent Singapore, pointed out the similarities between the Speaker of Parliament and a judge during a speech in this House in January 1970. Mr. Barker said, and I quote, "There is a great deal of similarity between the judge and the Speaker. The impartiality both are expected to maintain between contending and contentious factions has to be, it is generally believed, judicial," unquote. Indeed, all Speakers of Parliament prior to 1970 had been members of the legal profession, a fact that was also pointed out by Mr. Barker in his speech. It is paramount that the Speaker must be impartial and be seen by the public as impartial in discharging his duties in this House. Speaker Tan's comments during the 17 April sitting already damaged the public's perception of his impartiality, even before the revelation of his inappropriate relationship with a fellow PAP MP. Let us consider the context of Speaker Tan's comments. Associate Professor James Lim had just concluded a speech on poverty titled Hard Living in Singapore. Among other things, he called for the implementation of a poverty line and to make the approval process for ComCare less onerous and intrusive. After Associate Professor James Lim had taken his seat, Speaker Tan muttered a comment under his breath, which I'll not repeat out of respect for the standing orders. Speaker Tan's comments were highly contentious for two reasons. First, unparliamentary profanities were used in the comment. Secondly, which is the more serious reason, the comment itself revealed Speaker Tan's views of Associate Professor James Lim as a person, or the contents of his speech, or both. The Speaker of Parliament is, of course, entitled to form his own private opinions on any member of this House or any speeches made here. However, as an impartial referee that enforces parliamentary rules and procedures, the Speaker must not publicly express those opinions. This is no different from judges and heads of states in Westminster system. We do not expect or indeed allow judges to express their opinions publicly, or heads of states to express a different view from the government on public policy. The issue here is that not being neutral and impartial leads to consequences of negative public perception that lower public trust in public institutions. While Speaker Tan may not have expected that his comment would be picked up publicly, he was on duty and discharging his responsibilities as Speaker of the House. It was therefore a serious error to have even made that comment. Furthermore, the tone and contents of the comment make it clear that Speaker Tan objected to the contents of Associate Professor James Lim's speech. This is especially problematic because the Speaker is expected to ensure that Parliament is a fair arena for all members of Parliament, regardless of their political affiliation. And he was objecting to the speech made by a member of a different political party.
Mr. Leong, if I can just remind you what I mentioned at the start of before you spoke, that we should not be it's not a debate on the conduct of former Speaker Tan Chuan Jin.
Yes, Speaker, I understand that. But the recent events is the ingredients for bringing out the principles, right? So it's part and parcel of the thing.
Yeah, so stick to your motion,
yeah,
but not to comment on the conduct of former Speaker Tan Chuan Jin.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll carry on. Speaker Tan's comment thus did great damage to public perception of his impartiality, as well as the impartiality of the office of the Speaker. He acknowledged this in his resignation letter to Prime Minister Lee, when he said that his mistake raised broader questions over my neutrality and impartiality as Speaker. Speaker Tan's inappropriate comments while discharging
Mr. Leong,
Yes.
I thought you understood what I said earlier.
Yeah, but this is part and parcel of
No,
the...
so you can talk about your motion, which is about the neutrality of the speaker, but you do not need to make references to the conduct of former Speaker Tan Chuan Jin. I hope you understand that.
Point of order, sir. Can I know under what standing order I'm restricted from saying this?
Well, as I said, this, I will get the exact standing order to you, but here, this motion, as I would like to repeat myself in my opening remarks, it is not a debate on the conduct of former Speaker Tan Chuan Jin. So it is not about his conduct. It is about, let me read your motion, that this House reaffirms its commitment to the need for the Speaker of Parliament to be independent and impartial, and for Parliament to be a fair arena for all. That is your motion. Thank you.
Okay. Speaker Tan's comments are a direct strike at the values that underpin this Parliament. As a result, we are...
Maybe, Mr. Leong, let me, since you asked me which section of the Standing Order, Standing Order 50, Section 1, states the content of speeches, and this is why I say that I reminded members that they should confine their observations to the subject of the motion to be discussed. And in Standing Order 50, subsection 6, it states that in their speeches, members should not impute improper motives to any other member, and more specifically, I again repeated myself to say that rulings made by the former Speaker on any point of order cannot be reviewed by Parliament except upon a substantive motion directly addressing those specific points of order. So these are the specific references that you asked for. Thank you.
Okay.
If you like a copy of the Standing Order, I can pass the book to you.
No, I understand that, yeah. Hence, we are disappointed with the Prime Minister's confirmation during the ministerial statement just now that he would not have asked Speaker Tan to resign for his inappropriate comment. We think the Speaker should be held to a higher standard than an MP. This is an issue that should be debated further in this House. For any democracy to function properly, it must function on the basis of a parliament that it can trust. How can the public trust Parliament when its presiding officer had compromised his ability to be independent and impartial? Mr. Speaker, historically, even without recent events, the actions of the PAP government over the years could arguably be perceived by the public to have eroded the independence and impartiality of the Speaker's office over the years. As I mentioned earlier, prior to 1970, all the Speakers of Parliament have been members of the legal profession, either judges or lawyers, except for a brief period between 1963 and 1964, when Mr. E.W. Barker was Speaker of Parliament. All the Speakers of Parliament were also non-partisan. When Mr. Barker was elected as Speaker, Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Do Chin Chai explained and that this was a temporarily stopgap measure until the consent of the Malaysian government, which was responsible for Singapore's judiciary at the time, when we were part of the Federation of Malaysia, could be sought for a judge to be elected as Speaker. And indeed, this was followed through when A.P. Raja was elected as Speaker in November 1964. However, this convention changed after 1970, following the election of PAP backbencher and non-lawyer Dr. Yeoh Kim Seng as Speaker. I'd like to add that this happened incidentally after the PAP captured 100% of the parliamentary seats in the 1968 general election. Since 1970, the office of Speaker has been occupied by a PAP MP. Furthermore, in recent years, Speaker Tan and his predecessor have also been members of the Central Executive Committee of the PAP. In other words, at the power center of the ruling party. This evolution from having a non-partisan speaker to a backbencher speaker, to speakers who are ex-office holders or members of the PAP's Central Executive Committee, could be perceived as having eroded the independence and impartiality of the Speaker's office over the years. PSP believes that it is problematic for the Speaker to uphold his impartiality and independence while simultaneously being at the power center of the ruling party and being privy to the ruling party's political strategy alongside members of the parliament, of the government. It is also difficult for the public, especially those who do not support the ruling party, to be fully convinced that a core member of the ruling party can be an impartial presiding officer of the parliament. We are of the view that the Speaker should at least not be a CEC member of the PAP. Hence, we supported the elevation of Mr. Speaker from the backbenchers to the Speaker's office this time round. We hope that a Speaker of Parliament who is not closely linked to the core of the PAP will be able to restore public confidence in the impartiality and independence of the office of the Speaker of Parliament. The PSP trusts that you, Mr. Speaker, will make every effort to do this for the rest of this Parliament, for the rest of this term of Parliament. As our democracy develops and the number of alternative and opposition MPs increase, we hope the Speaker will be a non-partisan person again in the future, just like A.P. Raja in 1964. Sir, since I cannot quote many of the examples I prepare here, I shall conclude by recounting an event in English history, which has a bearing on how speakers in Commonwealth jurisdictions conduct ourselves. In 1642, King Charles I of England entered the English House of Commons and attempted to arrest 5 members of Parliament. He demanded that the Speaker of Parliament, the Speaker of Commons, William Lentor, identify these 5 members for arrest. Lentor famously replied to the king, "May it please your majesty, I have neither eyes to see nor tongue to speak in this place, except as the house, whose servant I am, directs of me." This incident underlined the principle that the Speaker should not be subordinate to the government, but an independent servant of the House. The Speaker has a duty to this House, and this House alone. He is also at liberty to express his he is also not at liberty to express his opinions beyond defending the interest of this House. The comments of a speaker, therefore, must continue to build on the public confidence, that the public has in the office of the speaker, and he must always be independent and impartial. There's much work to be done by this House and our new Speaker to restore public confidence in the independence and impartiality of the office of Speaker, which has taken a body blow by recent events. I call on all members to support the motion tabled by Ms. Hazel Phua and I, and unanimously reaffirm our commitment for the need for the Speaker of Parliament to be independent and impartial, and for Parliament to be a fair arena for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your good wishes, Mr. Leong, and appreciate your trust and confidence.